good opinion, a real good trade partner, right? The Braves can offer, you think about the Braves can get off relatively cheaply if you think about them giving up maybe a Minter and then one of your young pitching prospects, and then maybe you have to give up one of your two center fielders. You got two center fielders, you give them Pasher Waters, right? Then you give them, whether it be a Muller or a Wright or an Ian Anderson or one of those guys, and Minter, you got yourself Felipe Vasquez. And then you still have half of those guys left over. You haven't, mortgaged the future to bring in a Felipe Vasquez. So, everybody talks about these. I really think it makes sense for the Braves to go over after Felipe Vasquez, and I think he'd be phenomenal there, right? What do you think about that, Len? Just my thoughts. So, in order for the Braves to be a contending team, in my opinion, they need to make two moves. And they have the farm system and the capital to do this, right? They need to go out and get a starter. They need to get a frontline starter, and they need to get a frontline closer. And they can do it with the prospects that they have. It's not going to be hard, okay? I don't think Max Fried's the answer. I don't think Teheran's the answer. I don't think Gausman's the answer. So that leaves you. You're forcing your hand. You have to go make a move. So, just a couple more tidbits on the Braves, and then I'll move on. So, Freddie Freeman had 33 RBIs in the month of June. They're the most in franchise history during any calendar month. So, Freddie Freeman has more RBIs in the month this past June than any other Brave, I think, in Atlanta's history. I don't think it goes back to Milwaukee. I'm not sure on that. So, pretty interesting. He's having a good year. He's having a good month. The other little note that I wanted to pass along about the Braves, so a little did you know, for the first time ever, Mike Soroka, Ronald Acuna Jr. get named to the All-Star game. Obviously, it's the first time ever. Both are 21 years old. No other players, no other teammates in the history of baseball have been named to the same All-Star game before their 22-year birthday. So, Acuna and Soroka at 21 years old are making history as the youngest set of teammates to play in an All-Star game. Okay? Now, I'm not as excited about the rest of the East, but I think it's pretty important to talk about anyway, right? Because there's a real good chance that one of your wildcard teams comes from these next three teams. Realistically, I think it's one of these next two teams. But we'll talk about all three. The Phillies. The Phillies are the natural next best team. They've been in the lead for most of the year. They went out and made the big slash in the offseason. They went out and brought in Real Muto. They went out and brought in Bryce Harper. But, guys, it's just not working out for him, is it? I mean, this is a team that just seems to not be able to get out of its own way. Their pitching's been pretty good. Their pitching hasn't been good. Their offense has been pretty good. But, both leave a lot to be desired, right? So team-wise, again, this all goes back to, you see it as a trend. The teams that are good are going to be pretty good on team-wise, both hitting and pitching. The Phillies aren't that, man. So the Phillies currently sit at team batting average 20th in the majors at 244 and 15th at 412 runs, okay? Again, pretty disappointing given the amount of money they put into their offense in the offseason. Pitching hasn't been much better, and it's also let down because they've had some guys that they really believed were going to be big pieces to their dominance this year. They're currently 4.61 ERA is 19th best in the majors, and a 1.40 WHIP is 21st best in the majors. So you can look at this one of the two ways, right? You can look at it like the same way I looked at St. Louis. They're treading water, right? They're not playing their best baseball, and they're treading water. Or you can look at it as they're underachieving. I don't know which it is. I really don't. I wish I did. I don't think they're as good as the Braves. But right now, they're sitting in that last wild card spot at 44 and 40. They're tied with Colorado. So it'll be interesting, right? I mean, it's gonna be nip and tuck for these guys. So leaders, team leaders, Rhys Hoskins has 19 homers, followed by Bryce Harper at 15 and Franco at 12. Michael Franco is one of those guys who's just up and down. He's hard to figure out, but he's got 12 homers. Borderline viable, right? So that's your, Scott Kingery. You're going to see he was hurt for about a month. He's right here around every one of these lists. He's close by. He has 10 homers. He's having a really good year, guys. He's kind of the catalyst of that team at the moment. So for runs, Bryce Harper's got 50 runs. He leads the team. Gene Segura has 49, and JT Realmuto has 49. So again, that speaks to them being pretty good offensively, right? Kutch was a big loss for them, had 45. Hoskins 43. How about Kingery at 28? 28 runs, okay? We'll move on to RBIs. I'm not. Bryce Harper has 59 RBIs. Rhys Hoskins has 50. I'll move down now. Scott Kingery and Jay Bruce, 26 and 20 runs. Jay Bruce has 20 RBIs already for the Phillies. That ought to tell you about how important he's been, right? How about hits? Cesar Hernandez, sitting 284, has 88 hits. He leads the team. Gene Segura has 83 hits at 272. And Rhys Hoskins at 261 has 77 hits. Split stats, always fun to look at. I won't go too far in depth with this, other than to say that Gene Segura does well against lefties. 312. And so does Scott Kingery. It's 347 versus lefties. Two guys you want to look at when looking at DFS lineups, trying to take advantage of those. Versus righties, however, well, a little bit different story. No, it's not. Scott Kingery's hitting 307. And Cesar Hernandez hit 301. So two pretty well-rounded players there, right? Let's talk about the power numbers, though. 15 homers for Jay Bruce, 14 for Hoskins, 10 for Cutchin, and 10 for Franco versus right-handed batters. So clearly they like to hit the right-handed pitching for power, just as most teams do, right? So the Phillies pitching, and this is where they've really struggled. The best pitcher, you could argue, has been Zach Eflin. So it's sitting at just 7-7. He has a 3.34 ERA, and he's got 80 strikeouts and 97 innings. So he's been fairly consistent. But really, the rest of these guys, Aaron Nola's been a huge letdown. He's started to come on as of late, but his 4.22 ERA. Really is quite concerning, but not nearly as concerning as Jake Arrieta's. So here's a team, you're looking at, Arrieta, Nola, and Pivetta have been huge letdowns for the Phillies. So if the Phillies are going to contend, they're going to have to, one, improve from within, right? Because these guys are better than what their records have shown. But two, they're going to have to add to this. Because the guys that they have clearly aren't comfortable in the roles that they're currently in. So this is another team, much like the Braves, that don't be surprised if you see them go out and add a star pitcher over the deadline. I think they need to. Okay? The one surprise, because, in all honesty, the back end of the bullpen hasn't been much better. They brought in Dave Robertson. He's been hurt most of the season. Sir Anthony Domingos has been a humongous letdown. The one positive has been Hector Neris. He's been their best bullpen guy, but they certainly could use another bullpen guy for sure. Because I think that they don't trust those, Robertson and Dominguez whatsoever, even if they do come back from injury. So look for them to move there as well, right? Everybody needs pitching. Everybody. Well, the Nationals don't. The Nationals are next. I think they're the team to look out for, the kind of sleeper team, if you will. And really, they're kind of a Jekyll and Hyde team because you got a lot of guys. It seems like half their team is performing up to par, and the other half of the team is underperforming. So you look for the part of the team that's underperforming to bring up their level of play for this team to kind of give them the boost that they need. So currently they're 15th in batting average at 253. They're 14th in run at 414. Now you think about the guys on that team. They should be better than that. They should be better than the halfway in the league with guys like Rendon and guys like Trey Turner and guys like Soto. So it's one of those things. They're underperforming there. Their ERA at 17th is a 4.57, and their WHIP at 11th is a 1.31. So let's talk about Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon really is a team leader. I don't imagine they trade him, but he is. If they trade anybody, that's their guy. And I'm not saying. I say that only because there's no way they're trading Scherzer. He's just been too good. But if you can sell a guy who's got 19 homers, 63 runs, and 58 RBIs to someone, you could get a pretty good package back, right? So that's why I see Rendon maybe going at the trade deadline for maybe a bullpen guy, okay? Just like everybody else, the Nationals need bullpen help. Again, the team leaders, Rendon, Soto. I heard Arnie talking about Howie Kendrick. I agree. He needs to find the field more often. You do these split stats for a reason. I always think it's interesting when talking about it. I would expect, when doing the split stats, I expected the 373 with 4 homers versus lefties. What I did not expect, guys, Howie Kendrick's hitting 300 with 8 homers versus righties. Why is he not playing every day? I mean, I know he's kind of been a journeyman, but geez, Lou. I mean, he's being effective for both sides of the plate. You guys need offensive help. Let him play, right? He could play different positions. Now, here's where we run into a little bit of trouble. Not so much on the starters. Boy, the starters are good. You got Scherzer, 2.43 ERA, 8-5. The thing about Scherzer, so here we're going to talk about the haves and the have-nots here, right? I'm going to give you a guy who's got it going, and then I'm going to give you a guy. These are all going to be name brand players, right? So Scherzer's got it going, right? UT. Last month, Scherzer's 6-0, a 1.00 ERA, 0.67 WHIP, 68 Ks in just 45 innings pitched, 45.1. So, maybe you're right. So you're trying to say they're going to get rid of both Scherzer and Rendon? UT saying that the Nationals learned their lesson about getting nothing for Harper. So anyway, that's the good Scherzer is. Over the last month for Steven Strasburg, not so good. Now, again, 4-1 is good, but a 5.70 ERA, right? Definitely room for improvement out of Steven Strasburg going down the stretch, and it'll be needed. He's looked to as number 2 in that rotation. They need him to perform as such, okay? Good and bad. How about, as I said, Rendon? Rendon, 311, 19 homers, 63 runs, 58 RBIs. Encouraging, right? How about disappointing? How about Victor Robles? Here's a guy. This is why they got rid of Harper, right? He's hitting I guess it could be worse. 244 is not what you expected out of this kid. 12 homers, 44 runs, 36 RBIs, 11 stolen bases. Now, there is a positive to this. It could be worse, right? He's showing that he's at least handling himself in the majors. I expect for an uptick there, okay? That's been disappointing, Victor Robles. How about an encouraging guy? How about Juan Soto? Now, guys, mind you, Juan Soto is 22 years old. People forget that. He's hitting 297 with 14 homers, 49 runs, and 52 RBIs. Again, encouraging. This is good.